The forgotten species. In the vast expanse of the Andromeda Milky Way coalition, power flowed like water through the hands of the Galactic Confederation. 7 major species controlled everything worth having. The Vrillian Assembly, with their crystalline bodies and quantum computing minds. The gaseous Moore Collective, who had mastered gravitational manipulation. The insectoid Scathali Imperium, whose hive networks spanned thousands of worlds. And 4 other dominant races who had carved the stars between them like a feast. For nearly 3,000 years, they had maintained what they called the Great Harmony. What their subjugated lesser species called it was another matter entirely. But none dared speak against the order of things, at least not where they might be heard. On the observation deck of the Confederation flagship Eternal Vigilance, Supreme Counselor Vrex Tho gazed out at the sprawling shipyards of Centauri Prime. The Scathali leader's compound eyes reflected countless moving lights as construction drones swarmed around half-built warships and merchant vessels. Another productive cycle, purred Administrator Lu Sha, her feline body draped elegantly across a hovering platform. The Mrex representative's tail swished with satisfaction. Our expansion into the Sagittarius arm proceeds precisely on schedule. Vrex Tho clicked his mandibles in what passed for a smile among his kind. The new colonial prospects will serve the Harmony well, especially the mineral-rich systems near. A sharp tone interrupted, followed by the materialization of a holographic Vrillian, its crystalline form pulsing with agitated light patterns. Counselor, we have a situation in Sector 815-3B. The exploration vessel Distant Reach has gone silent. Vrex Tho's antennae twitched with irritation. A technical malfunction, surely. The last transmission was unusual. The Vrillian continued, its light patterns growing more erratic. They reported energy readings from what should be a dead system. Sol 3, in the abandoned quadrant. A heavy silence fell across the observation deck. Sol 3. Earth. A name not seriously discussed in Confederation circles for millennia. Impossible, Lu Sha said, sitting upright now. That system was sterilized during the Great Purge. Nothing could have survived. Nevertheless, the Vrillian messenger continued. Before communications failed, Distant Reach reported structures. Artificial structures in orbit around the 3rd planet. Administrator Lu Sha's fur bristled. The humans are extinct. This is established fact. Send 3 battle cruisers, Vrex Tho ordered after a moment of consideration. If this is some pirate faction or unauthorized colonization, I want it dealt with immediately. What none of them said, what none of them needed to say, was the word that whispered through their collective consciousness like a ghost. Humans. The very notion was absurd. Humanity had been deemed too dangerous, too unpredictable for the Great Harmony 3,000 years ago. The species that had fought with such terrifying ferocity during the First Contact War, refusing to surrender even when victory was mathematically impossible. The species that had, according to ancient records, detonated their own stargates rather than allow them to fall into Confederation hands. No, the humans were gone. A footnote in history, a cautionary tale told to younglings about the price of defiance. The Confederation battlecruiser Inevitable Triumph dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, flanked by its sister ships Unyielding Force and Swift Justice. Admiral Jopak of the Vrillian Assembly stood on the command deck, his crystalline form glittering under the lights. "Full sensor sweep," he ordered. "I want to know what we're dealing with." Around him, officers of various species worked at their stations, their movements precise and efficient. The preliminary scans showed a solar system that should have been dead, the aftermath of the Great Purge that had systematically eliminated all traces of human civilization. "Sir," called out as Scathali sensor operator, "we're detecting unusual energy patterns throughout the system, particularly around the 3rd and 4th planets." "Define unusual," Admiral Jopak demanded. They don't match any known signature in our database," the operator replied, mandibles clicking nervously. "And they appear to be watching us." Zhopak's crystalline structure flashed with skepticism. Watching us. Explain. The energy patterns shift each time we scan them, as if responding to our sensor activity. It's almost like. Without warning, alarms blared across all three ships. Navigation systems failed simultaneously, followed by weapons, then life support. What's happening? Demanded Zhopak, his voice rising as his ship's systems shut down one by one. On the main view screen, a message appeared in all the major languages of the Confederation. Restricted space. Unauthorized. EN2ROI. DETTTED. Stand by for in inspection. Sir, the communications officer stammered. We're being hailed. From Mars. The view screen flickered, and for the first time in 3 millennia, representatives of the Galactic Confederation looked upon a human face. The woman appeared to be middle-aged by human standards, with dark skin and silver-streaked black hair pulled back severely from her face. She wore a simple gray uniform without insignia or ornamentation. Confederation vessels, she said calmly, as if addressing trespassers in her garden. You have entered sovereign territory of the Terran Protectorate without authorization. Your systems have been temporarily disabled for security purposes. Admiral Zhopak stepped forward, his crystalline form pulsing with outrage. This system was neutralized 3,000 years ago. By whose authority do you claim? By the authority of survival, Admiral, the woman interrupted. Your historical records are incomplete. We've been watching your expansion with great interest. Impossible. It was impossible. Humanity had been destroyed, their homeworld rendered uninhabitable, their colonies systematically eliminated. The Great Purge had been thorough and absolute. Who are you? Zhopak demanded. The woman's expression remained neutral. I am General Ileana Chen, Terran Defense Force, and you are currently experiencing what we call a system-wide interdiction field, a technology we developed about 1,500 years ago, after we returned home. Returned home. The implications sent ice through Zhopak's crystalline core. The Confederation will not tolerate this deception, he declared, though his voice lacked conviction. Earth was destroyed. General Chen smiled then, a cold expression that didn't reach her eyes. No, Admiral. Earth was hidden. There's a significant difference. Word spread through the Confederation like wildfire. Emergency sessions of the Supreme Council were called. Military assets were mobilized across 17 sectors. Politicians and military leaders alike scrambled to make sense of the impossible revelation. Humanity had not only survived the Great Purge, but had apparently thrived in secret for 3 millennia. In the secure chambers beneath the Confederation capital on Centauri Prime, the 7 High Counselors gathered in person, a rare occurrence that underscored the severity of the situation. How? Demanded High Counselor Trevmore of the Vrelian Assembly. How did they survive? Our records clearly show the systematic neutralization of every human settlement. Supreme Commander Xal of the Scatheli military caste clicked his mandibles in agitation. More importantly, how have they remained undetected? Our exploration vessels have mapped that region repeatedly over the millennia. Deception, hissed Lu Sha. Always their specialty. The humans must have developed cloaking technology beyond our comprehension. The 7 leaders fell silent as a holographic projection materialized in the center of their chamber, a complete view of the Sol system as currently observed by their most advanced long-range sensors. What they saw defied belief. The 3rd planet, Earth, was surrounded by massive orbital structures that had certainly not been there before. The 4th planet, Mars, appeared to have been partially terraformed, and throughout the system, artificial satellites and installations of clearly human design hung in space like a silent armada. This is current, asked Trevmore, his crystalline form pulsing with alarmed light patterns. Yes, Counselor, confirmed the intelligence officer operating the projection, and we've detected similar structures in neighboring systems as well. Preliminary analysis suggests these installations have been in place for at least 1,000 years. 1,000 years of undetected human expansion. The concept was so alarming that several counselors began speaking at once, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of dismay and disbelief. Vrex, though, raised his upper limbs, calling for silence. "What of our battle cruisers?" "Released and returning, Counselor," the intelligence officer reported. "The humans disabled their systems temporarily but allowed them to withdraw once their inspection was complete." Inspection. Saul spat the word. "They dared to board Confederation vessels." "No, Commander. The inspection appears to have been conducted remotely, using technology we cannot identify." The implications hung in the air like a toxic gas. If the humans could remotely disable Confederation warships, the most advanced vessels in known space, what else were they capable of? "We must reconvene the War Council," Kazal declared. "The human threat must be neutralized once and for all." "With what?" asked Lu Sha, her tail lashing anxiously. "If they can disable our ships with a thought, what weapons would you propose we use?" As if in answer to her question, the holographic projection suddenly expanded, showing new images from across Confederation space. On 17 different worlds, strange monoliths had appeared in central public locations, each a simple black obelisk standing exactly 30 meters tall. "What are these?" demanded Vrex, though. "They appeared simultaneously, Counselor," the intelligence officer reported, voice trembling. "1 hour ago. In the central plaza of every Confederation capital world. On cue, the obelisks activated. Each projected a massive holographic image of General Ileana Chen, her expression as calm and unperturbed as it had been when addressing Admiral Jopak. "People of the Galactic Confederation," she began, her voice echoing across 17 worlds simultaneously. 3,000 years ago, your leaders attempted to eradicate humanity from the galaxy. They failed. The collective gasp of billions of beings across the Confederation went unheard in the sealed council chamber, but the 7 leaders felt it nonetheless, a psychic wave of shock and fear. "We did not retaliate then," Chen continued. "Instead, we watched. We learned. We prepared. For 3,000 years, we have studied your civilizations from the shadows. We have observed your technological developments, your political maneuvers, your treatment of subjugated species." She paused, and her expression hardened almost imperceptibly. "We have seen enough. The era of Confederation dominance is over. Humanity extends an invitation to all species of the galaxy to join the Terran Protectorate, a true coalition of equals where no species rules over another." As she spoke, data began streaming from each obelisk into the local networks, undeniable evidence of Confederation atrocities, political corruption, and systematic oppression of lesser species over thousands of years. "Choose wisely," General Chen concluded. "You have 1 standard cycle to disband the Confederation power structure and release all subjugated worlds from their treaties. After that, we will assist them in claiming their freedom." The transmission ended, leaving 17 black monoliths standing as silent witnesses to her words. In the council chamber on Centauri Prime, chaos erupted. Accusations flew between representatives of the 7 ruling species. Ancient grudges and fresh suspicions boiled to the surface as the leaders of the galaxy's most powerful alliance faced the unthinkable, an ultimatum from a species they had tried and failed to exterminate. Far away, in orbit around the once-hidden Earth, General Ileana Chen turned from the communication array and addressed the shadowy figures standing behind her. "It's done," she said simply. "Operation Lazarus is now active." A man stepped forward, his features weathered by age and experience. Admiral Marcus Reyes, Supreme Commander of the Terran Defense Force, nodded grimly. 3,000 years, he said quietly. "Our ancestors would be proud." Chen's expression remained neutral, but her eyes burned with the intensity of generations of purpose. "The real work is just beginning," she said. "Prepare the fleet. If history has taught us anything, it's that the Confederation will not surrender power willingly." Throughout the Sol system, massive shipyards that had been hidden beneath the surfaces of moons and asteroids opened like blooming flowers, and from within them emerged the Terran fleet, vessels of sleek, predatory design, powered by technologies the Confederation couldn't begin to comprehend. Humanity had returned to the galactic stage, and this time they weren't fighting for survival. They were fighting for justice. Reckoning of the Stars. 12 hours after humanity's declaration, the first acts of rebellion erupted across Confederation space. On Taurus IV, a mining colony of the subjugated Novan species overthrew their Scathali overseers. Similar uprisings occurred on 19 other worlds, all coordinated with suspicious precision. The carefully maintained illusion of the Great Harmony shattered like glass. On the Confederation capital, Supreme Counselor Vrex Tho watched through compound eyes as reports flooded in from across controlled space. Each notification represented another fracture in the power structure that had stood unchallenged for millennia. "How are they doing this?" he demanded, mandibles clicking in agitation. "How are humans coordinating simultaneous rebellions across thousands of light years?" Commander Xal's antennae twitched with barely suppressed rage. "The monoliths. They must contain communication technology beyond our comprehension. Then destroy them," Vrex Tho ordered. "We've tried," Admiral Lu Sha interjected, her feline features tight with frustration. "Any attempt to approach the monoliths results in immediate systems failure of all technology within 50 meters. 3 riots have already broken out when local security forces lost function of their weapons while attempting to secure the structures." Vrex Tho's compound eyes shifted between the holographic displays showing spreading chaos. Centuries of carefully cultivated control were unraveling by the hour. "Deploy the Ninth Fleet," he commanded. "All of it. I want Earth reduced to atoms. Again. This time, verify the destruction personally." Admiral Marcus Reyes stood at the heart of Terran Command, a vast complex built into the hollowed-out interior of Earth's moon. Around him, hundreds of humans worked at various stations, monitoring the galaxy-wide chaos they had meticulously engineered. "Fleet movements detected," reported Captain Sato, her fingers dancing over holographic controls. "The Confederation is mobilizing everything they have. Estimated arrival in the Sol system, 18 hours. Reyes nodded, unsurprised. "Right on schedule, General Chen." General Ileana Chen stood at a separate console, reviewing tactical projections. "The suppressed species are responding exactly as predicted. 87 rebellions confirmed, with another 100 likely in the next 12 hours. And our operatives, in position. The sleeper cells we embedded in Confederation worlds over the last 5 centuries have all activated." Reyes allowed himself a small smile. Few outside this room knew the truth, that humanity had never truly hidden. While the main population remained protected in the Sol system and a handful of carefully concealed colonies, thousands of human agents had surgically altered their appearances and infiltrated Confederation society over the centuries, gathering intelligence and establishing deep cover networks. "Admiral," called out Lieutenant Commander Jackson from the tactical station, "the Dressalian Republic is requesting direct communication." Reyes exchanged glances with Chen. The Dressalians, a species that had fought beside humanity in the First Contact War before being subjugated by the Confederation. Their cooperation was crucial to the next phase. "Put them through," Reyes ordered. The holographic image of High Chancellor Vex Mora appeared. A tall, elegant being with scaled skin that shifted colors with emotion, currently pulsing deep blue with determination. "Admiral Reyes," the Dressalian leader began, "for 3,000 years, my people have preserved the memory of our alliance with humanity. Today, we stand ready to honor that ancient bond." Reyes inclined his head respectfully. "The human protectorate welcomes its oldest allies. Your timing is impeccable, Chancellor." "The Confederation Armada approaches your system," Vex Mora stated. "They believe you stand alone. They do not yet realize that Dressalian shipyards have been secretly producing vessels using your designs for the past century. On cue, tactical displays updated, showing hundreds of warships emerging from hidden bases throughout Thessalian territory. The secret fleet built through covert cooperation between humans and their ancient allies. Perfect, Rice said. Execute Operation Pincer. Let's make sure the Confederation receives a proper welcome. Fleet Admiral Jopak stood aboard the Confederation super dreadnought Absolute Dominion, leading the largest military force ever assembled in the history of known space. 900 capital ships, 3,000 support vessels, and enough firepower to reduce a dozen planets to molten slag. We will reach the Sol system in 6 hours, his executive officer reported. All weapons systems at maximum readiness. Jopak's crystalline structure gleamed with cold determination. This would be the defining moment of his career, the final solution to the human problem, 3,000 years delayed. Any response to our demand for surrender? He asked. None, Admiral. Human communications remain open but unresponsive. This didn't surprise Jopak. The humans had always been defiant to the point of irrationality. It was one of the many reasons the Confederation had deemed them incompatible with the Great Harmony millennia ago. Sir, the sensor officer interrupted, voice tight with confusion. We're detecting spatial distortions at multiple points along our route. Jopak turned sharply. Elaborate. Unknown technology, sir. The distortions are growing in intensity and... The officer never finished his sentence. Throughout the massive Confederation fleet, alarms blared as hundreds of spatial ruptures tore open the fabric of space-time directly in their path. From these artificial wormholes emerged the combined might of the Human Protectorate and Thessalian Republic fleets, perfectly positioned to envelope the Confederation armada. Evasive action, Jopak ordered, but it was already too late. The trap had been centuries in the planning. Before the Confederation fleet could react, targeted electromagnetic pulses disabled their primary systems, leaving the most powerful military force in known space drifting and vulnerable. On the command ship's view screen, Admiral Rice's face appeared. Admiral Jopak, he said calmly, your vessels are now under our control. Your weapons systems have been neutralized, and your engines disabled. I am offering you one opportunity to surrender. Jopak's crystalline form pulsed with outrage. This is impossible. No technology could disable an entire fleet simultaneously across such distances. Rice's expression remained impassive. 3,000 years is a long time to develop new technologies, Admiral. While the Confederation stagnated, believing itself unchallenged, humanity continued to evolve. On auxiliary screens, Jopak watched in disbelief as smaller human vessels approached each disabled Confederation ship, attaching unknown devices to their hulls. What are you doing? He demanded. Installing temporary control modules, Rice explained. Your ships will be escorted back to Confederation space, under our command. Your crews will be confined but unharmed. The implication struck Jopak like a physical blow. You're stealing our fleet, repurposing it, Rice corrected. The Confederation used these ships to oppress dozens of species. Now they'll serve to liberate them. On worlds across the galaxy, the carefully constructed narrative of Confederation benevolence collapsed as billions of beings witnessed the unthinkable. The mighty Confederation fleet returning to central systems not in triumph but in defeat, controlled remotely by human technology that had rendered their weapons and defenses obsolete. In the Grand Council chamber on Centauri Prime, Supreme Counselor Vrextho faced the holographic projections of General Chen and Admiral Rice, flanked by representatives of a dozen formerly subjugated species. This council does not recognize your authority, Vrextho declared, though his voice lacked conviction. The Confederation has maintained peace across the galaxy for 3,000 years. Peace through subjugation is not peace, Counselor, Chen replied. It is merely efficient oppression. Rice stepped forward. We are not here to negotiate. The age of the Confederation is over. You have two options: Step down voluntarily and face trial for crimes against sentient beings, or resist and be removed forcibly. Vrexthos' mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. You cannot undo 3,000 years of galactic order in a single day. We already have, Chen stated flatly. While we've been talking, human liberation forces have secured control of 17 key Confederation worlds. Your economic system has collapsed. Your military infrastructure is under our control, and your subject species have declared independence. As if to emphasize her point, the chamber doors opened, admitting representatives of species that had never before been allowed in the council chamber: the Novans with their bioluminescent skin, the methane-breathing Krell, the collective consciousness of the Thorin Unity, and others. Vrexthos stared at the newcomers in shock. This is a violation of all council protocols. These lesser species have no place. Those protocols no longer apply, interrupted Talon, the Novan representative. The Galactic Confederation as you knew it ceased to exist approximately 6 hours ago. We are here to negotiate the terms of your species' integration into the new interstellar alliance. 3 months later, General Ileana Chen stood aboard the observation deck of humanity's newest diplomatic vessel, Reconciliation, watching as representatives from 117 species gathered in the massive assembly hall of the newly constructed Interstellar Alliance headquarters in neutral space. Did you ever think you'd see this day? Admiral Rise asked, joining her at the viewport. Chen's expression softened slightly, the closest she came to smiling these days. I was born to see this day, Marcus. We all were. She wasn't speaking metaphorically. Both Chen and Rise were 9th-generation officers of Project Lazarus, the millennia-spanning initiative that had transformed humanity from a nearly extinct species into the architects of a new galactic order. For 3,000 years, every aspect of human civilization had been focused on a single goal: developing the technological, strategic, and diplomatic capability to dismantle the Confederation and free the subjugated species of the galaxy. Each generation had played its part, accepting that they might not live to see the final victory. There are still Confederation loyalists causing trouble in the outer systems, Rise noted. There always will be, Chen replied. Perfect solutions don't exist. But for the first time in 3 millennia, the majority of sentient beings in this galaxy can determine their own futures. Below them in the assembly hall, the first formal session of the Interstellar Alliance was about to begin. Unlike the Confederation's hierarchy, each species, regardless of technological advancement or population size, would have equal representation. History will remember this as humanity's greatest achievement, Rise said softly. Chen turned from the viewport to face him directly. No, history will remember this as everyone's achievement. That's the point, Marcus. The Confederation failed because it was built on dominance. The Alliance will succeed because it's built on equality. As if on cue, the human representative in the assembly hall, Dr. Amara Washington, a diplomat rather than a military officer, rose to address the gathered delegates. 3,000 years ago, she began, her voice carried clearly to the observation deck. The species of this galaxy were divided by force into rulers and ruled. Today, we stand as equals, ready to build something better together. Chen and Rise watched as former enemies became allies, as ancient wounds began the long process of healing, and as the galaxy took its first tentative steps toward a future neither dominated by human revenge nor Confederation oppression. There's a human saying, Rise remarked, living well is the best revenge. Chen nodded. Our ancestors understood that. They could have built superweapons, launched devastating counterattacks immediately after the purge. Instead, they chose the harder path, to rebuild, to plan, to wait, and ultimately to liberate rather than dominate. Below them, the delegates rose in unanimous approval of the Alliance Charter's first article. No sentient species shall claim inherent superiority over another. I wonder what they would think. Rise mused. Those first survivors, if they could see us now. Chen's gaze remained fixed on the assembly, where former Confederation species now sat as equals with those they had once subjugated. I think they'd say we honored their sacrifice, that we remembered what truly makes humanity exceptional. And what's that? Rise asked. For the first time in months, General Chen allowed herself a genuine smile. Not our capacity for vengeance, but our capacity for justice. In the vast chamber below, 117 species, including the 7 former rulers of the Confederation, ratified the founding document of the Interstellar Alliance. A new era had begun, forged not from the destruction of enemies, but from the patience of a species that had turned 3,000 years of exile into the ultimate redemption. Humanity had returned to the stars not as conquerors, but as liberators. And in doing so, they had finally answered the question that had haunted the galaxy since the First Contact War. What makes humans different? Not their ferocity in battle or their technological ingenuity, impressive though these were. What truly set humanity apart was their unwavering belief that freedom was worth waiting for, worth fighting for, worth dedicating entire generations to achieving, not just for themselves, but for all sentient beings. The legends had been right all along. Humans were dangerous, not to life, but to tyranny, not to peace, but to oppression. The Confederation had tried to exterminate them precisely because they had recognized this fundamental truth. As the ceremony concluded, the representatives of 117 species stood together, formerly bitter enemies now united in common purpose. And among them stood humanity, no longer hiding, no longer merely surviving, but finally fulfilling their true potential as architects of a more just galaxy.